What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my very own ultimate guide for the upcoming Game Week 12. So game weeks after the international break, speaking about that, hopefully you guys did have a good one, but games after the international break or game weeks are quite tough to call. So in this ultimate guide, I'll be trying to make the most sense out of the upcoming game week. We're going to first take a look at the projected numbers, the clean sheet odds, and projected goals, before moving on to some injury news that hopefully will be international break injuries, and namely GABRIEL replacements, as it seems like that one might be the most medium term. We then move on to the captaincy debate, where I will discuss if I'm jealous of you Saka owners or not, and that's going to round up our ultimate guide for Game Week 12. So if that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the clean sheet odds, once again, it just seems like every single game week we talk about the fact about how good that Arsenal defense is, and this week is no exception. At the top place, 48%. So it's not like Spurs are the kind of best attack, but definitely not the worst, so to have 48% in the North London derby is simply outstanding, and it'll be interesting to see how these numbers do shift if GABRIEL is confirmed out. My expectation is that Arsenal defense is pretty systematic. Anyone that slots in there will probably do well, and therefore I can't see that 48% actually moving that much. Now the next team is going to be Chelsea at 43%. Just put that perspective in there. Compare Spurs to Burnley, and yes, Arsenal still have the higher percentage. Just shows what their clean sheet odd percentage has been this Premier League season. But if you guys do own a Sanchez or Cucurella, this game does look pretty good. And then unfortunately we have a little bit of a step down to the teams next. Fulham 36%, Liverpool 38%, and finally we have Bournemouth as well as United on 35%. So I guess if you are looking for GABRIEL replacement, they might get instant value in Game Week 12 if you guys do go for a Virgil van Dijk. But please don't overlook the rest of the Arsenal defense for a like-for-like switch. As an Anderson owner, I generally am hoping here that not only we get that DEFCON threat, but also the clean sheet points, but was quite surprised to see their percentage being so high with how good Sunderland have been this Premier League season. Same thing with Senesi, hoping for some clean sheet odds, as it hasn't been the great as a Senesi owner recently, but that Bournemouth good run is just getting started. We then have Crystal Palace that narrowly missed out on this sort of green ranking at 34%, and that's expected as their game against Wolves should also be a pretty strong one. If you guys are looking into teams to avoid, definitely your Spurs defenders. I guess if you guys have a fun defender, you're probably hoping for a goal or an assist anyways. His attacking threat, even in an international break, has been pretty sublime. Burnley, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, some tough matchups there, not too high of expectations. And then we have quite a few teams in that sort of grey bracket, but I'm not starting any of them. We always do say this, but what games are going to be more sort of entertaining? It does look like Newcastle, Man City, both teams looking to score there. Otherwise, Leeds, Aston Villa could be quite open. Does generally look like the majority of our defenders have great matchups this week. Unfortunately, with that GABRIEL injury, it might be one less. But I'm pretty sure you guys are going to go for a placement that's going to get you some points in Game Week 12. Now let's move on to the more exciting things. Maybe this gives you guys some clarity on that captaincy debate. It's going to be the projected goals or the attacking numbers. Now this week we do have Liverpool returning to the top of the projected goals metric at 2.35, and they're followed by Arsenal on 2.15. So no surprise there, your kind of best two captaincy options, Salah, Saka, could be there. Just depends how much goal share you guys favor out of these two squads. For example, with Arsenal, how many odds are they going to be on those set piece goals? Whereas with Salah, I guess he might have more of an involvement with that Liverpool attack. Fixtures also targeting me Chelsea, Bournemouth. I am hoping João Pedro continues on this goal scoring way of things, as well as hopefully Enzo's involved. I'll also keep an eye on Semenyo. If he is fit, this is a great matchup, but if he's not, definitely a game that you don't want him to miss. So is he actually worth the transfer out if he's going to be missing for Game Week 12? Finally, less of a shout out to United, but still pretty good odds there, 1.85. I was hoping that Bruno outscores Mbumo. Now we did speak about these kind of more entertaining games. Newcastle, Man City could be there, both teams expected to score, and I was quite disappointed to see the Crystal Palace projections being so low at 1.6. But there are some teams that the odds kind of never favor. Crystal Palace seems like it might be one of those teams, as their form has been pretty good this season. Unfortunately, as expected, there are some teams to avoid. I don't think there's many people that do own your Spurs attackers, but kind of the inverse of that Arsenal clean sheet, they have the lowest odds here, along with Burnley, Sunderland, as well as Nottingham Forest. Now, I was potentially looking at bench in Dye this week. That decision might actually be out of my hands with the Semenyo injury, but it does look like that might be the right call to bench him, as the Everton clean sheet odds are 1.08. Now obviously these might not come true, they're just sort of a benchmark, helps us make sense of the fixtures, and I always find them quite useful when you guys are considering who to bench out of your attackers. This season haven't really used it that much for Camp C, but could Game Week 12 be a shift in that? Big highlight on Man City at only 1.75. That's probably the biggest thing that you guys can take out of this, is that Man City this week aren't looking that great, and could this be the week to go differential? What I will add though is that if you do look at kind of goal share, Erling Haaland's goal share of that 1.75 is still going to be pretty high, whereas a Saka and a Salah might not be as high of a percentage for their respective teams. But still, this might be the week to go against Haaland if you guys do want to do it. Kind of worked out last week with Saka. Now the next talking point is going to be all about those international break injuries. Now I know at the top they have selected GABRIEL, but don't worry, I'll be talking about the rest of the injuries first. Now let's start off with Semenyo. Unfortunately, he was subbed on the 55th minute for Ghana and has been returned to Bournemouth. I'm pretty sure we'll be getting some more news in the press conference though about his injury. Now my hope at the moment is that he should be okay for Game Week 12 and it was simply a precaution, as it seems like he might be playing with this injury over the last few weeks. Then with Enzo, a lot of people have been asking me about Enzo. The rest from Argentina over the international break was pre-planned. I think even if he didn't get subbed off in Game Week 11, he was already not going to travel, as it seems like he's been playing with an injury this season. Now I do think over this 2-week extended break he should be okay for Game Week 12, so fingers crossed that's the case. But the biggest one is going to be that GABRIEL injury that happened in their friendly. Now if you guys haven't seen the video, he basically was sprinting back when the opposition were counter-attacking, and he pulled up around halfway with some discomfort. Now, didn't look the best on video, and therefore he's probably the player I would say might be the most injured. It just depends how long he's out for. But let's just say he is out for a number of weeks. At this stage of the season, at the end of the year, there's so many game weeks back to back, so therefore he might actually miss a number of games. But as always, just wait for those press conferences. Don't exactly know if Arteta's going to give us anything, but rather be safe than sorry with information. But now let's just say that maybe GABRIEL is confirmed out for 3 to 6 weeks. That's probably the window I would take him out. Let's go over my 4 favorite replacements. Now the 4 players I want to talk about are going to be Timber, Virgil van Dijk, Munoz, as well as GABRIEL. And the best thing about GABRIEL is because he's so expensive, you can downgrade him to anyone. Now of course you will lose some value, which is going to be annoying, and that's why I would suggest just make sure he is out for a number of weeks first. But let's go over the fixtures for these 4 options first. Now the first player I've talked about, and it's simply because the clean sheet odds for Arsenal are just so good, and I can't really see them decreasing that much with the GABRIEL injury. So like for like switch, could be a Saliba, could be a Timber. These are my 2 favorite options, just prefer Timber more from an attacking point of view. And at this point, Arsenal seem to be fixture proof. Now the fixtures out of these 4 definitely aren't the best, but for the long-term hold, I think Arsenal's defense is going to get a ton of clean sheets, and that's kind of the bread and butter for any defender. If you are a fixture-based manager like myself, I'm tempted by Virgil van Dijk though, a lovely sea of green followed by a sea of grey. Definitely the best fixtures out of these defenders. Now the worst thing about Liverpool, and you guys will see it in the numbers, their defense hasn't been that great, but I guess their fixtures might have been tougher. Now next up is going to be Munoz, a player that I do like from an attacking point of view, and Crystal Palace's defense has been pretty solid. He's probably arguably the most attacking defender at the moment. Now one thing I also want to raise is that if you guys do free it around Game Week 16 for that Man City fixture, Munoz could be a great buy as you are missing his toughest fixture. If you do manage to kind of miss that Man City game, the fixtures will look pretty good. Wolves, Burnley away, as well as Leeds. Not too shabby. Then the final player, unfortunately, has his worst fixture in Game Week 12. It's GABRIEL. Now you guys go for other options. There's talks of an O'Reilly. You guys know how I feel about most Man City players though. There always might be rotation. And that's why I've kind of gone for GABRIEL as a bit of safety. Now if you guys do ignore that Newcastle game, great fixtures, especially at home, Leeds, Sunderland and West Ham. Very decent. And Man City's defensive numbers haven't been the worst. Now obviously with these 4 players you're getting some premium FPL options, that's why they're priced so expensive, and therefore hopefully the stats break it down a bit better. Now in terms of the defensive numbers, I've gone over XG conceded per 90, XG, XA, defensive contributions, as well as expected FPL points, as these players should be nailed and therefore we don't have to look at the minutes. Now if you guys want a metric to just show how good that Arsenal defense has been, here it is, 0.6 XG conceded per game. Compare that to Virgil van Dijk, almost between 2 and 3 times worse at 1.6, and then we have Munoz at 1.4. Now that Munoz metric was actually quite interesting because I did consider the Crystal Palace defense to be a little bit better than that. And then we have Man City on a cool 1.00 XG per game. So from an XG conceded point of view, that Arsenal defense just looks too hard to ignore, and therefore even if GABRIEL is out, you guys can just go for another Arsenal defender, and that might actually be the best or safest play. Now if we do go on to actually XG, Timber is showing some promise here, and that's why I think I do prefer him over Saliba, as he's got 0.14 per game. Munoz not as attacking as I probably would have liked here at 0.8, whereas the other centre backs not that much set piece threat. In terms of XA, Munoz does show a little bit more promise here at 0.18, but Timber's numbers also don't look that bad. If you were to combine the XA and XG numbers together, Munoz does shine here, has the highest by 0.02, but because of Timber's higher XG in terms of points, he's still favoured. Now where you guys might kind of look for your defensive contributions, Virgil van Dijk looks really good here, but these numbers have been boosted. I think he got 21 defensive contributions in one fixture this season, but definitely the best out of these 4. So if you were to assume these averages per game, Virgil van Dijk basically getting DEFCON every single fixture, and that 2 points does add up over the entire season, giving him a few more attacking returns that he wouldn't have had. Now unfortunately when you look at kind of expected FPL points taking into consideration the clean sheets, the DEFCON, all that good stuff, Timber just shines here at about a clean sheet a game. Unfortunately Virgil with that bad defensive performance is the lowest at around 3.9, with Munoz outperforming Guardiola because of that attacking threat. So honestly when I do look at these numbers, the only thing that kind of strikes me is the fact that obviously Virgil van Dijk is so good at DEFCON but the defense hasn't been there. And that's where it kind of comes down to, do you think these fixtures are good enough for Liverpool to keep clean sheets? Also like the look of Munoz with those attacking numbers as well as the fixtures. And unfortunately I just can't take a punt on a Man City player with these other better options around. The one conclusion though I am seeing here is the fact that Arsenal defense does keep it up, and it does look like they will over these upcoming games. I think a like for like switch for another Arsenal defender is the safest. I do like the punt on Virgil if you do think the Liverpool defense will improve as he does get the DEFCON, and might favour him slightly over a Munoz as that attacking threat might not be as sustainable. The fixtures on paper though do look pretty similar. I do favour the Liverpool ones though, and therefore because the XG conceded is so close between the two clubs, I'll probably bet that the Liverpool XG conceded decreases to below the Crystal Palace one. We are kind of blessed though if GABRIEL is out, there's so many options of high quality here because of the price tag. Concluding, I think that Timber is probably my favourite here and probably the safest. Do slightly prefer Virgil van Dijk if Liverpool can get it together, otherwise Munoz is a very adequate replacement, and because of these 3 just can't see myself going for a Guardiola. But you guys in the comments down below, have these numbers kind of given you any insight into who your replacement would be? As mentioned though, just wait for the press conference if Arteta gives us anything. I think the Arsenal direct replacement is being overlooked, and that's why I did want to suggest it, but those Virgil and Munoz punts might be worth it with those fixtures. Now the final talking point to go over is going to be all about Kamsi, and no surprise this week might be the week to go differential, or at least against Erling Haaland. The projected points really not favouring Haaland in this fixture, and therefore he isn't even in the top 3. So the number 1 player this week is going to be Mo Salah, a return of the king of FPL, even though his season hasn't been great, at 6.7. Now I do think the potential's there, obviously the projected goals looking the best for Liverpool, and Salah should be involved. I just don't know how many Salah owners there are out there. I've seen some kind of suggestions of maybe dropping Haaland for Salah for the short term. I just don't know if the form's there. That's why I do think Saka is probably the best replacement if you guys don't want to go for the Haaland Kamsi, and he has a projected points of 6.1. Now against Spurs, you guys have seen Arsenal's projections are pretty good. Spurs haven't been the best defense, and that's why yes, I am jealous of you Saka owners. If you did it last week, you're probably going to do it this week, and I can understand it. Or you could go for the popular Bruno Fernandes at 6.0. I don't exactly know if I do trust United enough to captain them, but his projections are higher than Haaland's. Just for kind of interest's sake, Haaland is on 5.6. So still pretty decent projection, not as high as these three, but still in around the bracket. And that's why I think if you guys do have Saka or Salah, I would probably go there, but don't think I'll be going for Bruno. That's why I'm on the Haaland Kamsi, and I still feel like against Newcastle he could be involved. Let me know in the comments down below who your captain is for the upcoming Game Week 12. Otherwise, any other talking points you want me to answer, drop them in the comments or my Discord server, link in the description, slightly more active there. Hope you guys have enjoyed your international break, and I will be seeing you guys for my team selection coming up in the upcoming days, so ensure your notifications are turned on. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it and subscribe if you have subscribed yet. Content still to come up, so notifications should be turned on. But for the time being, I'm going to sign off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.